Welcome to Heart. This is our chat with the cast and crew of When Calls the Heart. I'm Marg Stark, and I am a Facebook admin from San Diego. And I'm joined today by
Chelsea from Puerto Rico.
And today we're welcoming a young Hearty guest host. He's appeared in a couple of our Heart to Hearts this season, and we're just so very blessed to have him be a huge fan and to dominate Twitter with his wit and humor. Please welcome Kade Dortch.
Hey Hearties, I'm Kade, and I'm from Edmond, Oklahoma.
Love it. Yeah, awesome. We have the leader of the team who had us reaching for all the tissues last night, John Tinker. Welcome.
Oh, we all did. Thank you. I liked the episode. I liked it.
Well, it was phenomenal. We have a lot to cover, and we won't even begin to get all of it. But you look like you're back at the Ronderosa with your gorgeous windmill.
A little virtual background, but I'm down here with this green cast, and I don't know why, but it's got the best internet. So let's give it a go.
Sounds good. So I alluded to it a little bit before we got on air, but Kade is 15. And how did you first even come upon the show, Kade?
Like the interviews or?
Well, no, just When Calls the Heart. How did you even get into it?
So my mom started watching it. This was a while back, like a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I just walk in, and it was like a nice scene. So I stop and keep watching. And next thing you know, I'm three episodes down of the night. And so, mom went to bed. So, I got to finish it. And so I'm intrigued. So the next seasons just keep coming.
Wow. Thank you.
I just think that's so cool. Kade has been such a positive and funny presence on Twitter, which Twitter frankly needs. And the Hearties tend to take ourselves just slightly seriously. So there really is nothing like a 15-year-old's humor to lighten things and brighten things. So that's really why he's here, to demonstrate once again the beauty of a family-friendly show, that it can attract such a wide audience. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, thank you, Mark, for doing that. Kade, for being here, and of course, Chelsea.
Yeah, of course, definitely. So we were really on our heels last night, John.
Yes, ma'am.
Grabbing tissues and like gooey butter cake. I mean, tell us, what moment did you love the most, or the moment that really played with your emotions in this episode 10?
I do have a few, but I do like the fact that Nathan and Lucas seem to be coming around the bend, coming around the clubhouse turn, and finding a possible friendship. I think that was a really magnanimous, generous, forgiving thing that Nathan did by acquiescing to Bill's letting that gentleman go. Forgiving the charges. I just thought it was a really wonderful thing to do. Very, very good thing to do. And it wasn't easy for Nathan. So that's my moment.
Yeah.
Chelsea, what was yours?
So there were so many amazing moments. But the one that comes to mind is Faye telling Rosemary that she might be pregnant. I was floored. I was so excited because I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. And I know that many Hearties as well. I think all of us. And it was such a beautiful moment, and how Rosemary reacted at the moment. She was like, "I'm sorry, what? What did you say? I think I heard you say this." And actually last night in her interview with Deidre Behar, Pascal said it felt important to play this moment small, that when big things happen to Rosemary, she goes a little small. So were the writers thinking about this when they were writing this scene?
No, I don't know that we I don't know that we had the idea that Rosemary goes small, which again, Pascal knows that character better than anyone. Pardon me, my ride's here. But what we did want to do was we didn't want to rush through the moment, and we wanted to give her a way to digest it. She has so much going on with her emotionally, beside the possibility that she's pregnant. She has so much going on with her physically, as was set up, and also just considering the time and how one was diagnosed, whether or not they were pregnant, and the fact that the audience had waited so long for her to possibly be pregnant. So there's a little more to go through. What if she isn't pregnant?
Dawn, bite your tongue.
No, please.
Well, if it is true and she is pregnant, she's done so good with little Jack that I just can't imagine how good she'll do with kid of her own, you know.
Oh, that's nice. I love that sentiment.
Yeah, I agree.
Great. That's great.
Rosemary has come such a long way, like from how she, I guess, viewed kids in like the beginning of the show till now. I mean, like Rosemary has come such a long way. And also Kevin said last night that he now thinks it was a good thing to have waited this long, you know, for this special moment. And that made me think, and I was very curious to know, like, how surprised were the actors in reading the script for the first time and seeing that on the page? Like, were there any reactions from them that you could share that you know of?
You know what? I never got any reactions. I know that Erin Krakow and I discussed it along with Kevin and Pascal, and of course, all the folks at Hallmark. And obviously, we discussed it all, you know, not ad nauseum, but we discussed it for a very long time in the writer's room. I think there were some surprises, happily so. But Kevin and Pascal were extremely helpful in you know, just laying out the story and figuring out how we might best be able to tell this. I think those characters were ready right about now to possibly have a child. And at the same time, one of our bigger concerns was the fact that we didn't want adoption to appear as not as a loving and viable and real alternative for them. And it's not that they ever rejected that option. It's just it didn't feel right for them. And, you know, they might have, or they might be considering that option again if they're pregnant. What if they aren't pregnant?
Were there any not just with this storyline, but throughout season 9, did you hear from actors after they read it and were like surprised?
You know, I don't think any of us really did. It last season, again, we were off the set. And so I wasn't even in Vancouver, and I just didn't like that, of course. And when you go to the set, you get a chance to talk to the actors, and they tell you, and you get to talk to them, and they get to tell you what their surprises are. And often, by the way, that dialogue with the actors, just kibitzing on the set, can lead to some good stories. So
I'm sure.
I hope this season, everyone, if there's a 10th season, and I'm not being coy, I really don't know that there's a 10th season yet. My odds on favorite would be that there is, but who knows? But no, I think the one who had some of the most positive reactions to what they were doing was Kevin, I think, Kevin McGarry. But that's also in part because he and I would talk about it, about the gun and things like that. And he just wanted to do things like that. So he texted me. He said, I like that gun. It really played well.
Well, in a couple of our heart-to-hearts, we've heard, you know, with Ben Rosenbaum, that he had some initial concerns about the mayor, about his storyline, and same with Kevin, that I guess Kevin initially thought he was going to be the editor.
Mark, you're right. Kevin actually called me upset, and understandably so, that he was led to believe, or found it that just assumed he would become the mayor. And when he didn't become mayor, he was upset.
Oh,
and
wow.
We talked through what was going to happen, and he liked that just as much or more. And I meant to write Ben last night. So Ben, if you're listening, I don't know that you are, but someone pass along the message to him. Ben was very helpful. When we extricated, Mike Hickam from that mayoral spot, it felt right, but we didn't put words to it. And Ben Rosenbaum was helpful. He said, when they were almost verbatim what he said, I think that Mike should say, for years I've been able to help people and do all kinds of things for them. But now I need to say no and follow the rules, and I can't do where my heart is. So that was very helpful for Ben Rosenbaum to add in dialogue for Mike Hickam. So we knew it felt right, but he helped us out. And he had they all have concerns. And I can't say that I've ever really felt that their concerns weren't valued and valuable. So.
Well, literally everyone we've talked to this season talked about what the incredible collaborative relationship that they have with you. So I think that it speaks to that openness that you have cultivated among the team. That
some of the best ideas come through that give and take and collaboration.
Right.
Got it. Kade, did you have a favorite moment?
Yes, my favorite moment was actually when Lil Jack climbed up on Lucas's lap. Like Lil Bro just knew something was up with his buddy, and that's so crazy to me how that connection is already so strong between them.
And he wanted him to smile. He wanted to turn his frown into a smile. Yeah, that's cute. And I think someone asked whether or not that was scripted. Yes, it was, but I thought he did it just terrifically.
But how much of that scene was scripted?
All of it was scripted. Darn that Jack Hyland going off script. He added a few things about the doll and the binoculars.
That was fantastic.
Yeah,
the statue doll.
Great. Yeah, statue doll. Yeah, and the same way that he did outside with the pump, the water pump across the house, across the house, saying, "Oh, yes. No, I'm a pirate." He's very creative.
Aaron just went with it.
Yeah, he's very creative. Yeah, and we have actors who know how to go to that, and Chris McNally's terrific with him too. Gee, I sure hope they get married. What if they don't get married? What if they don't have a baby?
Oh, Don.
Yeah, and I felt Lil Jack when he saluted to Lucas and saluted to Nathan, and Nathan saluted back to Mountie Jack, and the tears just started flowing, man.
That's great.
Yeah,
that was a moment we had in very early in this season, or maybe even the previous, and we never used it, and so we did it again, and it just felt like that was the right place for it. I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, the writers never throw anything away, so we hung on to that.
That's smart.
I'm going to go in a totally different direction. I actually really liked the ending. It was such a tense episode, and that slap across the face was it was heartbreaking. And to have Henry sitting there alone, I mean, it was not a tie it up with a bow Hallmark moment. And I think that made the pain of it reverberate so much more, having it edited in that fashion, having that be the last scene. But tell us about that slap. I mean, I don't think we've seen a slap on I don't think we have on When Calls the Heart before. So
I thought that too.
We just felt that this had been building up in both Molly and Florence, but Florence just could not contain herself, and it will be addressed. The idea of slapping someone is not something to be abided, and that will be addressed. But she just unfortunately could not control her emotions. And
well, it's probably a bit of a trauma response.
Oh, it's absolutely a trauma response. And well, I tell you, there's no one who plays getting caught off guard and a lot better than Henry Gowan, than Martin Cumming. You just he was a fighter down on the canvas who had just taken one punch, and deservedly so, as far as he's concerned.
Yeah, I was so uncomfortable during the scene with, I can't even think of the guy's name, where
they're making the deal in the office.
Yeah, where they're making a deal in the office and they pull out the decanter and, have a drink. It was just like, I don't know. It was so icky. And tell us what was the goal of that?
Well, the goal for that for us was, this was a guy who had hopefully left that kind of ickiness, as you said, behind. And he's caught between leaving it behind and not being able to do something as they move forward. And he's sort of trying to get in bed with these folks, which it may backfire on him and it may not.
Yeah.
But Mark, I think that's an interesting and astute way to look at it, because that's a slippery slope for
Yes.
Henry Gowan, and Henry Gowan could very easily become the person he was before, and hopefully had left far behind. And truth is, we don't even know where he was. We haven't addressed yet. He went away.
Right, that's right. He disappeared.
We talked about it, Martin going off and doing some things
right
on his own as an actor, but the character went away somewhere, and we have to find out where and what that was and what's on his mind. So all of these things, we don't ever do things like slap someone slap someone. We don't do that lightly. We don't have someone take 2 glasses and scotch and look across the table at someone he's been in business with and know is a bad guy and just do that. Those all have reverberations that, though they may not pay off either in the scene or in that particular episodes, they will be addressed and will pay off. So we're all appreciative of the Hearties hanging in there and waiting to see.
Yeah, I think it was such a weighty, there was several characters who are in the midst of these very big ethical dilemmas.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, so it's not neat at all.
Nathan was in a messy one, and
right.
And
Rosemary was in a rescue one. Yeah,
and even
lot.
Lee and Joseph were in a messy.
Yes, also
exactly. They were all at crossroads and places where they needed to make a choice or ask forgiveness.
Yes,
or perhaps take a step where they shouldn't be going.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like there's realness in that.
Good.
A lot of realness, and a lot of hard choices that that got brought to bear. Caroline Walsh, you referenced this a little bit, but I want to return to it. She's of South Bend, Indiana, and she really wants to get at why Nathan agreed to the plea. Why a Mountie who cares about justice and cares about his horse and cares about the law, why he would agree to this plea and let the hit and run driver go.
I think one reason is, in the past we've noticed that sometimes not going by the book can get you into trouble. It's what in part led him at Fort Clay to be excused from the duty that caused Jack wound up going on. He chose not to go by the book here and follow his heart as well. Will it be for the better or the worse? I think for the better. I think he's being, as I said, magnanimous probably doesn't quite describe it, but I think he's making a large gesture and a big concession, feeling that more good can be done than prosecuting a very bad guy in Wyman Walden had muscled in to try and get him to do something.
I like you tying that into the Fort Clay. I had not thought about that. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's one of the advantages of having a writer's room. And by the way, I always include Allie in that, who has this big brain and this all encompassing When Calls the Heart universe swirling about in it. What's consistent with the character? That's always what we're concerned about. It. How is the character consistent? And if he's going to be, or she's going to be, or do something inconsistent, why? And you better have a good reason.
Yeah, I think it was a very magnanimous gesture. And I think some Hearties who are big Nathan fans felt like maybe it was a little too magnanimous. And I think that's where When Calls the Heart always leads us to bigger heartedness. But I think thinking about it as consistent with his character from Fort Clay could be helpful, I think.
I also think he was doing his job there and being reminded of why he wants to do that job. And he likes looking over people, and he's a good guy. And I think also he wanted to put it behind him. And again, he felt he could do some good here. So.
Right. And going back to that slap, man, gosh, dude, like when I was watching that, I had to, hit him with I almost dodged it because I felt that. Jeez, that was crazy.
She really hauled off and gave him a good one, didn't she?
Yeah, for sure. But Edith Branquino from New York asks, why are they bringing back the mines after like the tragic memories that go along with it?
Well, why are they? We the writers
are the writers, yes.
Yeah.
I think we felt that given the industrialization of what was happening, and that oil, that petroleum and coal, which had been found up there initially, were right up there with railroads and the telegraph. These things were changing the world, and it was part of the theme of the season of how do you make progress, or is it preservation? And it's what the mayors ran on in part as their platforms. We just wanted to address it. We felt it would be an interesting place to go. When you think you've left them far behind and they're just a distant memory, and then suddenly you're confronted with them again. Have you changed as a person? I think Florence is either a good or a bad example of someone who, that mine disaster where she lost her husband might as well have happened just a couple of weeks ago. She hadn't left it behind really at all, and she's got to find a way to do that. Sometimes we think we've dealt with some issues when in fact we haven't, and we want to touch on it. We are not going to, we're not going to make the mine thing a big thing like the oil company or anything else. We're just kissing on it for some dramatic reasons, and most of them character reasons.
Yeah, right. Not like hiding from your problems, kind of like forcing him like head on,
That's good.
Yeah. Going away from the mines, Javen, Nat, and I have connected through Twitter.
Oh, good.
And we're good on snacks. Like when the release comes out, which Sour Patch Kids is the best one. But what snacks do you like
what snacks don't I like? That's you know what? I tried, I didn't realize this until my wife who has a newspaper column, a weekly newspaper column, complained about me in her column the other day about me getting up constantly, going to the refrigerator and eating, bringing something back, walking in front of her, between her and the television. So I try to limit. That's a long way to say I try and limit my snacking now, especially during the show, and just lay, down low in the chair and try not to get up and disturb anyone. So, but if I were going to eat something, ice cream is always up there with. Is it Bluebell that makes this incredible mocha with chocolate chips in it? Wow, that's great. And bread products, any bread, pretzels, cookies, things like that. That'll do it for me. You guys, Chelsea, Mark, what are your?
I've been eating a lot of popcorn this season. A lot of popcorn. Yeah.
Chips and cookies.
Yep. What's your favorite chip?
Oh man, that's so hard. Right now, like I'm in any type of barbecue chip.
Really?
Oh, okay.
That's like my go-to now, but I love all of them basically. Just depends on the mood and how I'm feeling, I guess.
Like a barbecue potato chip or a barbecue tortilla chip or a barbecue?
Yeah, a barbecue potato chip.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been leaning towards those also, actually. Like I used to not like them, but now I'm like, taste buds just adapt to it.
Right?
And do you have to
Barbecue
do
on
that
chips.
sweet salty thing? Sour Patch Kids is a yin yang thing, but if I have ice cream, I wouldn't want to have some pretzels. If I have pretzels, I want to have some ice cream.
Yeah, I love that. I would do that too.
Makes sense to me. Chocolate has to be involved.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And while we're talking food, the gooey butter cake, obviously,
Yes.
I was surprised that everyone latched onto it. We looked that up. It didn't come around till the 30s, but our thinking was, hey, wait a minute. Someone finally stole that from the Canfields, because the Canfields are from St. Louis. And that was a huge thing in the 30s.
That's
And,
funny. A Hearty, I think from that area, St. Louis,
That's
posted
right.
today her recipe.
And it was something, I guess, made by accident. They made a mistake in the recipe. And we cited that, or we're going to cite it, but
That's cool.
We say that Minnie did. Minnie made a mistake, and this is what came out.
Yeah. Like speaking of gooey butter cake, like I've never had it before, but I'm so interested in trying it. Like just by the name, it's like, okay, I need to try this. So Rosemary actually like went to Abigail's to get gooey butter cake, but she also really seemed to want to confide in Joseph in that scene. And it feels as though she's like fluctuating between like hope and faith, but also fear, which is like so real as well. So is that your take on it, John?
Well, that was a callback to the very first moment Joseph came around and he said, I'll be praying for your husband, as was cited in the scene. And I think she's there for a couple of reasons. She might confide, but and it was a scene that never made it. There was a scene in the season 8, in the first part of the season, where she talked to Lee about having children and said, I'm going to start praying. So that scene never made it. That scene never made it. But in our minds, as the writers, never throwing anything away, she had been, as she said to Joseph, praying on and off. And I think what she's looking for is some validation to am I kind of a pregnant thing? And what I love is that Joseph says, yeah, I really think it works, but it doesn't mean we always get, what we're asking.
That quote, I wrote it down.
Yeah. And that's what I loved. And I think that was as reassuring for her as anything. And I think this is another example of that man and having an impact on this town and folks.
Yeah, I love that. And also like wavering between, fear and hope. Nathan mentioned to Faith that Lucas had been involved in dirty deals before he came to Hope Valley. So Christine Tamburello Palermo from Tomball, Texas, needs you to clarify what that meant.
You know what? We should get Allie. There were these dirty dealings precede me, and I so I don't know that I can answer it as well as some other folks can, Derek and Beth and even Allie or Peter. But he did arrive rather shady, and there were talks about him having been involved in gambling and things like that, and he had apparently deservedly gotten a sort of shady reputation. And I just, when we got in the writers' room, my position was, well, let's just leave it at shady and what's going on here. I don't really know what's going on. That emotion, it was more important for us for that emotion to play into Nathan's thought process about, if I'm going to let this go, am I going to prosecute this guy and Lucas is going to have to suffer in part for it, or am I being prejudicial against Lucas? What have I seen this man? Who is he? I love the fact that he also said, hey, I want you to know my decision, even though I haven't made it yet. It's not about you and me.
Yeah.
And inferentially, Elizabeth. That's not what, but this is a guy who came, he's come to Hope Valley and in a very short time has been embroiled in so many things and really had his, life turned upside down. And I won't run through all the things here, but if you look back, he's very thoughtful and he had to decide very, very consciously what he was going to do. And so again, I think Dirty Dealings was, he's trying to he's just trying to figure out what's important, what he believes, and what has he seen out of Lucas since he's been there.
Yeah.
It's really important that you brought that up, because I don't know how much you're on Facebook, but in our group, but Shady has been a flashpoint.
Has it?
It's a flashpoint. So yeah, it's, last year during the troubles, as I like to call them, I think that, there's a tendency in our discourse today to grasp onto these little kind of catchphrases or words instead of being thoughtful necessarily in our discourse and really seeking to find common ground. We tend to go to divisive teams, and we use these little phrases sometimes as weapons. And shady became a word weapon, just like some other things that were used with Nathan.
It was my. Go ahead.
So we've had a really difficult time as admins figuring out how to bring the community together when it sort of feels like sometimes the writers are still leaning into the shadiness a little bit.
It was my opinion, I can't speak for the other writers, it was my opinion that shady was the least sort of offensive. It was sort of
right. Yes.
This is a bad guy, or this is, look, I don't think Nathan really is aware, and he's just sort of, he's been involved in some shady stuff. So, and I don't know that he really wanted to talk about it. Everything was swirling around for him, so if we, I'll even take the hit. If I unintentionally lit a fuse again, I didn't mean to. I've always maintained, I think this is a very good man. And even if he had been involved in some unsavory things, I think he's.
And by unsavory and by shady, I think we mean he has acted independently sometimes to try to ensnare grifters. And this has not always been, it's not unlawful, but it's also not necessarily with the law.
Right.
Correct?
And
he's taken matters into his own hands.
Elizabeth was very, and a number of characters, I think Bill might have said it, and or Nathan, why didn't you come to me?
Right.
That was an instance where Lucas probably wasn't thinking clearly and just wanted to get rid of this all on his own. But no, he wasn't thinking clearly. You're right.
Yeah, so it's a little sensitivity, and we try to remind Hearties that all of these characters, as much as we deify them, are, we're all flawed individuals, and it makes for much more interesting storytelling if we can embrace some of the nuances in their character. And that doesn't mean that Lucas isn't a phenomenal guy. He clearly is, but like everyone in life, he's made decisions at some point that, okay, cool. We won't belabor the point, but
it makes the journey like interesting as you see all of it, like from when he arrived till now.
I mean, it's contributed to that town in so many ways, not to mention to Lucas and Elizabeth, and to Elizabeth and little Jack. So there you go. There were so many phenomenal performances last night. I mean, we've talked about Loretta and Pascal. I won't pretend to have had an infertility journey, but I certainly had a little bit of exposure to it. And I just felt like the nuanced way that she heard that news was so true to that experience that you're sort of afraid to hope and afraid to be excited. And it was so beautifully done. But I feel like show after show, we neglect to talk about Erin's performances. And I think it's probably because she's the through line and she just makes everything work.
She, she hasn't had this season big storylines, and sometimes as the hub of the show with all these constellations orbiting around her, that just happens, and that's a generous actor can do that and maintain, as she does, her character's integrity, and it's playing the big moments. I won't say that's easy, and anyone can do that. It's difficult, but playing the little moments that, as I said, maintain your character's integrity. And by integrity, I mean who that character is in the smallest nuanced ways is really difficult. And she does it great. You know, I referenced something last week. Someone said that kiss in the saloon was a bit big, but and not that I disagreed, but what Erin did at the end of it by looking around like she had just done something naughty, like fun naughty, was great. And she does lots of things like that. And she's just dead on. Her instincts are very good when it comes to playing playing her character. I haven't seen Erin in many other things, but if she's as good in other movies and things that she is playing Elizabeth Thornton, it's just so impressive. And as I said, generous in that you can let other people step up and have the bigger moments. You know, when she's talking to Rosemary the other night about, okay, clearly you had your mind made up, you printed the story, but I read it, and she's just strong and she's there. And the scene isn't about her; it is about them, but it's really Rosemary's scene. She doesn't back out. She stands her ground as her character without making more of her performance than need be. And that's really what's difficult in those scenes.
Interesting.
If you feel as though I'm either not getting those scenes or I wish this scene were about me, and you step up and try and make it about your character, it's going to throw everything off. And I don't want to not give credit also to Neil, but again,
it's a restraint almost.
Yes. And she has that restraint, and she knows when to be on, she knows when to back up, she knows when to move forward. You know, I think about her this season with Landis when she says, "Mr. Landis, this is my school." You know, she just, as that character and as an actor, knows when to push and when to pull back. And I love working with her. I think it's great.
Oh, that's super interesting. I think that's fascinating because I did feel like, why haven't we talked about Erin more? But what you're saying makes so much sense. That and I felt like she looking at Lucas at the jail last night. Wow, she just looked like a woman so in love. And I really saw it on her face. And then of course the moment with Rosemary, you know, they were really battling a very critical, difficult moment, but also then brought together and reconciled.
As Elizabeth Thornton, Erin Krakow has a quiet confidence and strength that I've seen. You know, I wasn't there, but I've watched all the episodes, the seasons, and she's grown. And again, it's rightly and necessarily not in leaps and bounds. It's these incremental things that she does. It's like the way none of us grows and changes overnight. It's always, it's little by little. And before you know it, we're quite a different person. Or perhaps we're not, but I've watched this character grow, and it's in great credit to Erin Krakow.
Very cool. Going into the home stretch of the season, does this represent the easiest part of the writing or the hardest part of the writing for you all? Because there's just all these loose ends to.
No, this is dessert. This is the best.
This is the best.
This is we're all having real fun now because these last two episodes are fun, and there are big things to set up. And again, not being coy, I'd be the first. I'd like to be the first to announce season 10, but should the show go season 10, wow, it's going to be a spectacular season. It's really going to be great.
Yeah, so intriguing.
But there's lots of fun still to come in the resolutions, and some possible opening of some new stories that open up for possibilities for a possible season 10. So I hope we all hope that the viewers, our fans, enjoyed watching it as much as we did writing it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure that we'll enjoy it. And like turning our attention to next week, which is the next to last episode of the season. I mean, what a ride. It has been amazing. I've been loving it. And we see the escalation of two main things that we noticed. The red ring box, Lucas just keeps showing. And we're like, what?
Forgot about that.
And also we see like there's a very loud noise it looks to be like an explosion. And also we know Bill's health is still like in question. Like we don't know what's going on. And Faith has been like really worried about him and checking up on him. So what can we expect to be resolved next week? Is there something that you can share?
Well, I'm afraid if I share it, it'll give it away. But there's just no, tune in. It's Christmas Eve.
Nada.
Next week is Christmas Eve.
Will something be resolved in the next episode?
There's a part of the story that gets resolved. A couple of others continue. There's one that opens up, but it's going to be Christmas Eve, and then the last episode will be Christmas.
I don't know. I don't know what the tradition is in your house, but in our house, we open a present on Christmas Eve.
You can open one on Christmas Eve, but it's not Christmas Eve
yet. You get one, and then you wait for Christmas morning for the rest.
That's right. That's what we did.
I open all mine on Christmas Day.
You do?
Really? Kade,
yeah,
work with me.
Do.
Work with me.
Oh, see, yeah, I've heard about that, but
Christmas Eve seems like a good idea. Yeah.
Introduce a new tradition.
Oh, please. No, tune in. I don't think we need to go pandering, but it would be great to show Hallmark just how beloved this show is.
We can do that.
Great final numbers over the last 2 episodes. For whatever reason, and I'm not saying Hallmark's the bad guy. Things that take time to work out details and the practicalities of this business. This is the latest I think it's ever been picked up. I think we've been picked up before this time before. So if you guys could tune in, please, that'd be great.
Yes. And
it'll be worth it.
Stakes are high.
It'll be worth it.
Stakes are high. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. And all of us Hearties are on the edge of our seats. John, I mean, like every age, and on Facebook and Twitter. And we just thank you for giving us, 10 amazing nights of TV. And those weeks we have spent in between in the anticipation and just mulling over everything that has happened.
Well, Chelsea, thank you. We love it. We don't always get it right, and we don't always expect applause, but we love it when you guys are positive. Like you're so positive, and you're such a force for good. So thank you, and Chad, thank you too, and Mark, of course, as always.
Yeah, and Kade, thank you for joining us and leading the young Hearty audience to the show and to great family-friendly TV, which is so important and so needed right now.
Oh, thank you, and thank y'all for having me. This is so fun.
Yeah, and
keep watching. Get more of your friends watching.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I got you.
Hey, by the way, did you do that behind you? Did you do that? What's that hanging on your wall?
Oh, that's just Amazon right there, actually.
Oh, okay.
But John, have you seen Kade's socks?
No, Kade, what do your socks look like?
Oh, well, I make usually later, or should I say earlier in my life, I just started making them. And then now kind of like the people request, and then I'll just make what they request. So if you
Hearties socks.
You got any requests?
You have a sock site?
Yeah, Home Kade Socks actually. It's just an Instagram account, and it's on Twitter.
We sent hundreds of them to, would we say hundreds, maybe dozens of them dozens. To the crew. They Fantastic. Have many of them have Kade socks, and Hearties have requested some, and he's made them. Is it like a 3D printer? Is that how you make them?
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. With his own designs. And are you making one with Mountie Nathan and Mountie Jack?
Oh, like I did on that little edit.
Like you did on the meme that you created.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I'll probably do
we need
that.
it.
Speaking of that, I made a pair for little Jack and his cat, actually, since he requested, like last interview, he requested, what was it? It was a bear. A bear and Pooh. That's what he wanted.
Yes. Well, Peter DeLuise, of course,
well, I was gonna say,
there.
There was
potty humor.
influence.
Yeah. So his his cat is, what's Highland's cat's name?
Zelda.
Zelda. So the cat, a bear, and poop.
Okay. And on that note, Mark, take it away.
Chelsea's turn.
Yeah, so we are almost to the end of the season, Hearties, and there's so much intrigue and romance and such great moments ahead. So remember to tune in Sunday night at 8/7 Central on the Hallmark Channel, and also come over to Twitter. Like, remember to use always the hashtag Hearties. So we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.